Today we're going to read a book called Space for Kids Who Really Love Space. This book was written by Sarah Powell and it was designed by Nicola Friggins and Catherine Radcliffe. So it says, the universe is mind-boggling big. It is everything that exists, every speck of dust, rock, planet, solar system, and galaxy. It is difficult to imagine just how big the universe is. That's because we think it's infinite or never-ending, containing an unimaginable number of stars. This is a new nebula where new stars and galaxies are. So here's the new nebula. And it says, this is a huge cosmic pillar. It's made of hydrogen and dust. So that's talking about our universe. So the Milky Way. The Milky Way is just one of the billions of galaxies that exist in the known universe. And it is also home to our solar system. It is called a spiral galaxy due to its shape and contains between 200 to 400 billion stars, like the sun, and some 50 billion planets. So here's about our Milky Way. It says galaxies come in all different shapes. This one is a spiral. So we are in a spiral. It says a black hole is thought to exist in the middle. So they think there's a black hole in the middle. And then it says we are somewhere here. So Earth is somewhere around here. So now we're going to talk about the solar system. The solar system is where we call home. The sun is in the middle of the solar system and everything else orbits around it. There are a total of 8 planets, some with their own moons, as well as 5 dwarf planets, including Pluto. The Earth is the 3rd planet closest to the sun, with Neptune being the furthest. So it says, it's the hottest, so Venus is our hottest planet. Mercury is the closest to the sun. The perfect conditions for life is Earth. Mars has a volcano bigger than Mount Everest. Jupiter, the asteroid belt is between Mars and Jupiter. So here we have Mars and Jupiter, and we have an asteroid belt here. Jupiter is our biggest planet. Saturn, their rings are of ice and dust. Uranus has 27 moons. And on Neptune, the wind can blow up to 1,200 miles per hour, or it blows at that. That's pretty fast. And we have our sun. And the yellow box says, until very recently, there were 9 planets in our solar system. But in 2006, scientists took away Pluto's planet status. It's now a minor planet or dwarf planet. Poor Pluto. So we're going to talk about Mercury. Mercury is smaller than some moons in the solar system. Mercury is the planet closest to the sun. It looks very similar to the surface of our moon and is covered in craters made when huge asteroids crashed into its surface. Mercury is so dense it has a large core made of pure molten iron. Wow, that's interesting about Mercury. So this is the heat from the sun. Then it said Mercury has one of the largest impact craters in the solar system. So it says key facts. It's the first from the sun. It's the smallest. It has 0 moons, and it's a terrestrial planet. So now let's read about Venus. It is once thought that Venus was similar to Earth, and that life might even exist there. But we were very wrong. In fact, it is the most unfriendly planet in the solar system. Its surface temperature is so hot it can melt lead. Its air is mainly composed of carbon dioxide, and there are layers of poisonous sulfuric acid clouds in its atmosphere. Yikes. So it says, it is sometimes called Earth's sister planet. Venus is the brightest planet in our skies. Its diameter is only 400 miles less than that of Earth's. So it's pretty close to our size. Key facts. It's the second planet from the sun. It's nearly the same size as Earth. It has 0 moons, and it is also a terrestrial planet. Earth, that's where we live. Earth is the only known planet in our solar system with life. We call Earth the blue planet because of the oceans that cover most of the surface. The Earth takes 24 hours to rotate on its axis, giving us day and night, and 365 days to orbit the sun, giving us changes in seasons. Pretty cool. So this is our moon that orbits Earth. So it says the ozone layer protects us from the sun's harmful rays. Oceans cover 70% of Earth's surface, so all the blue is our oceans. And then key facts. We are the 3rd planet from the sun. We are the 5th largest planet. We have 1 moon, and Earth is also a terrestrial planet. Mars. Mars is known as the red planet. It is a planet that is most like Earth, although as it is further from the sun, it is very cold. Scientists have discovered ice beneath its surface. This may mean that life once existed there. One day we hope humans will set foot on it. So, Earth has huge craters, valleys, and mountains that cover the surface. Mars's red shade is made by iron in the planet's surface. Across the middle is the 1,864 mile long canyon called Valles Marineris. And then key facts. It is the 4th from the sun. It's half the size of Earth. It has 2 moons. It's also a terrestrial planet. And then on November 13th, 1971, Mariner 9 became the first space probe to maintain orbit around another planet, and this was Mars. Exciting pictures and data were beamed back down to Earth. So we had a probe that was able to go around Mars. So Jupiter. Jupiter is the biggest planet in our solar system. It is so big that it is 2.5 times the size of all the other planets combined. Wow. It is made mainly from gas and is known as one of our 4 gas giants, along with Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. So it says Jupiter is a very stormy planet with winds of more than 400 miles per hour. The planet is covered in thick red, brown, yellow, and white clouds. And the Great Red Spot is a huge storm 3 times the size of Earth. So here's the Great Red Spot. And then there's clouds all over. Key facts. It is the 5th planet from the sun. It is 1,300 Earths. There are 64 moons, and Jupiter is a gas giant. And Jupiter has 4 of the largest moons: Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. Now we're going to read about Saturn. Saturn is the 2nd largest planet in the solar system. It has 9 beautiful rings that can be seen with a telescope. Its rings are made up of ice, rock, and dust. Saturn spins very fast on its axis. A day on Saturn only lasts 10 hours. So it says some ring particles are dust-sized, while some are as big as mountains. They are made from comets, asteroids, or shattered moons. Saturn is the 6th planet from the sun. It is the size is 764 Earths. There are 62 moons, and it's a gas giant as well. Next is Uranus. Uranus is so far away that if we were traveling there from the sun and you made it to Saturn, you'd only be halfway there. It is a very cold place with temperature reaching as low as 371 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's 371 degrees below zero. And that's above its cloud layer. Little is known about this distant blue planet, and what lies beneath its clouds remains a mystery. So Uranus is the only planet that rotates on its side. So usually we rotate this way, but Uranus rotates it this way. And the bright blue color comes from methane gas. So Uranus is the 7th planet from the sun. It's the size of 60 Earths. It has 27 moons, and it's a gas giant. This is Titania, its biggest moon. It is 980 miles across. So this is the moon, and this is Uranus. So now we're going to read about Neptune. Neptune is the furthest planet from the sun. Neptune is a cold, icy giant. It is a very bright blue. Oh, it is very bright blue due to the methane gas, with a water layer that leads down to a solid core the size of Earth. It takes 165 years to orbit the sun, meaning that its winter lasts for 40 years. Wow. That means their one winter lasts longer than however old Mrs. Turkey is. Okay, so Voyager 2 is the first and only spacecraft to pass this distant planet. The Great Dark Spot is a storm the size of planet Earth. Its orbit of the sun takes so long that it has only been around the sun once since its discovery in 1846. So here's Voyager 2, and here's the Great Dark Spot. That's a storm. And then Neptune is the 8th planet. Its size is like 57 Earths. It has 13 moons, and it is also a gas giant. We're going to talk about stars. People who watch the skies are called astronomers. They use telescopes to study the sky and look at planets, stars, and galaxies and cosmic events like supernovas. People have been looking at the stars for thousands of years. It is impossible to imagine just how many stars there are in the universe. So many important space discoveries have been made by people using telescopes. So here's a telescope, and this is the Big Dipper constellation. Some key facts. The closest star is the sun. There are too many stars to say. The Milky Way galaxy alone has 200 to 400 billion stars. And the colors can range from red to white to blue. The color indicates heat, with red being the coolest. Very interesting. The sun. The sun is the star at the middle of our solar system that gives us heat and light for life on Earth. It is a giant burning ball of hydrogen and helium gas with a surface temperature of 9,932 degrees Fahrenheit. That's hot. The sun is so big, its diameter is 109 times that of Earth. Wow. So the haze that comes off the sun is called the corona, so this little haze. The energy from the sun is called the solar wind. Red areas of the sun are the coolest. Sudden huge explosions of energy are called solar flares. And some key facts are the core temperature is around 75,000 times hotter than an oven. The size is 1.3 million Earths. The age is 4.5 billion years old. And it has 28 times the gravity of Earth. Space rocks. Space is home to rocks of all shapes and sizes. There are icy shimmering comets orbiting the sun. Huge irregularly shaped asteroids the size of planets and meteors that can enter the Earth's atmosphere as shooting stars. So the meteorite that made this crater broke off from the huge asteroid in space. So this one. And it says the crater is 558 feet deep. The meteorite crashed on Earth 50,000 years ago. This is the meteor crater in Arizona. So this is in Arizona. And then there are famous space rocks. Asteroid Ida is one of the biggest known asteroids. It is so big, it has its own moon. That's pretty big. So Halley's Comet appears every 75 years. It's the only comet you're likely to see in your lifetime. And now we're going to talk about satellites. Man-made satellites are very useful. We use them to monitor space and our planet. Orbiting the Earth, they send data and signals back down to the satellite dishes. Since the first satellite, Sputnik, I was launched in 1957 by Russia. There are now thousands of satellites orbiting the Earth. So incoming signals are received by the curved dish. And then this satellite dish is located on Earth and communicates with satellites in space. So it's curved. And that's how it receives it. And then this one's on our Earth. And then it says satellites are used every day. We have satellite TV, we have mobile devices, weather reports, and navigation. The moon. The moon is dry. It is dusty with no air. It is covered in hollows called craters made by huge meteoroids crashing into its surface, which still happens today. Ocean tides on Earth are caused by the moon's gravitational force. The moon is the only place in space where humans have landed. So the moon takes 27 days, 7 hours, 43 minutes, and 11.6 seconds to orbit the Earth. The moon's surface is covered in impact craters. The moon is an incredible 4.5 billion years old, and the lunar module carried a crew of 2 men from lunar orbit to the moon's surface and back. So this is the lunar module. And then it says, in 1969, Neil Armstrong, an American astronaut, became the first man to walk on the moon. His footprints from 1969 can still be seen on the moon's surface today. That's pretty cool. Okay, space stations. Space stations are manned satellites that travel in a low orbit of the Earth. They allow astronauts to live and work in space for long periods of time, and other spacecraft can dock onto them. The longest serving and the biggest space station ever is the International Space Station. So the International Space Station is about the same length as a soccer pitch. So on board, there is general living space, a gym, and laboratories. And the International Space Station orbits the Earth 16 times a day. It has solar arrays that help power the space station. These are their solar arrays. Exploring Mars. In recent years, many rockets have launched orbiters, landers, and rovers into space to study and explore Mars. 4 rovers have landed on Mars and roamed its surface. They have taken over 300,000 images so far, as well as collected lots of data about Martian rocks. So it says Mars rovers. In August of 2012, the NASA Curiosity rover became the latest rover to land on Mars. Its mission was to explore the surface to analyze Martian rocks and discover if humans can land there one day. So on Mars, there are goalies on the surface of Mars that could have been formed by water. And then the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter has taken astonishing pictures of its surface. So here's the goalies that they think that waters may have caused. Here's Mars rovers. And this is on the reconnaissance thing. Oh, the reconnaissance orbiter. Rockets. Every space mission begins at mission control, where a team of scientists and engineers prepare to launch a rocket into space. Huge rockets are ignited on a launch pad. The rockets gain enough power to take off, rise up, and enter space, climbing over 1,000 feet in just a few seconds. So they have mission control. Rocket missions are controlled from Earth at mission control. Teams of scientists, engineers, and flight controllers track a rocket's progress from the point of liftoff. So here's mission control. This Apollo rocket had a crew of 3 seated in the top. Rockets are so powerful they shoot up high into the atmosphere. And the biggest rocket ever was Saturn V at over 300 feet. It's pretty big. Okay, astronauts. Astronauts are brave men and women who venture into space. They are sent on special missions. Some astronauts have landed on the moon, while others are sent to work on space stations orbiting the Earth. So key facts. The first in space was Yuri Gagarin. The first on the moon was Neil Armstrong. The fastest speed travel was the Apollo 10 astronauts. It was 36,440 feet per second. The most time spent in space was Gennady Podaka for almost 2.5 years. Largest single stay in space was Valery Polyakov, which was 438 days. So here's our astronaut. They have oxygen tank supply, protective helmet. This astronaut is out on a spacewalk, and they have their spacesuit. They cannot survive in space without that gear. Space shuttle. The space shuttle was the world's first reusable spacecraft that carried large satellites to and from orbit around the Earth. It zoomed into space like a rocket, sat in Earth's orbit like a spacecraft, and then landed back on Earth like an airplane, transporting crew and equipment up to space stations such as the International Space Station. So they has external tank that holds fuel for main engines. Its burning fuel creates huge clouds of smoke. NASA launched its final space shuttle in 2011. And the orbiter houses the crew. So here's the orbiter that houses crew. Here's the smoke. And here's the external tank that holds fuel for engines. Okay, space tourism. How about a trip into space for your next vacation? It's very possible with companies like Virgin Galactic developing new spacecraft to do so. Scientists hope that one day we might be able to use the same spacecraft to travel across the world in just 3 hours. Wow. So tickets to fly. Tickets for the first Virgin Galactic flight are on sale now for way too much money. New Mexico is home to the world's first commercial space port, and passengers will experience zero gravity. It's a different kind of airplane or spaceport. And then we have a timeline. So in 1608, Hans Lippershey invents the telescope. Galileo later improves this design and finds proof that Earth orbits the sun. In 1682, Edmund Halley discovers Halley's Comet, which is named after him. 1687, Isaac Newton describes his theory of gravity. 1781, William Herschel discovers Uranus. 1846, Neptune is discovered by Johann Galle. 1926, Robert Goddard launches the world's first liquid-fueled rocket. In 1949, monkeys become the first living mammal to fly into space. 1957, the USSR scientists launched the first satellite into space, marking the beginning of space age. 1959, the USSR and America began a space race to be the first to land on the moon. 1961, USSR astronaut Yuri Gagarin becomes the first man in space. But in 1969, the American Neil Armstrong is the first man on the moon, followed by Buzz Aldrin. In 1977, the launch of the Voyager deep space probes. In 1990, the Hubble Space Telescope was launched. In 1998, construction began on the International Space Station. And in 2011, which was just 9 years ago, was the end of the Space Shuttle program with final launch of the Space Shuttle Atlantis. Then it says, and beyond, how about taking a trip into space on your very own space flight? Which planet was your favorite so far? And which one would you like to learn more about?